You know, if you're a highly intelligent person, just trying to blend in can feel, well, completely exhausting. It's because your brain isn't just processing words, it's processing the whole world in concepts, which can turn a simple conversation into something incredibly complex. So, what's really going on in there? Let's break it down.
Man, does this question hit home. It's that classic feeling, right? You're at a party, you're smiling, you're nodding at all the right times, but inside, you feel like you're wearing a mask, operating on a totally different wavelength from everyone else in the room.
Look, if you've ever been told you're too much or too intense or maybe just plain weird, listen up. That feeling of being out of place, it is not a flaw in your personality. It's actually a huge sign that your brain is just wired differently.
What we're really talking about here is something called a cognitive gap. Think of it as the social distance that gets created by high-speed mental processing. And in this explainer, we're going to dive into the 6 core reasons why this gap exists and how it messes with the way you communicate.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to look at the mental editing delay, thinking in layers, this cognitive speed mismatch, analysis paralysis, your deep need for authenticity, and finally, intellectual humility. Ready? Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, let's explore your internal world. What's happening inside your head before you even open your mouth? These first 2 reasons are all about that silent struggle between processing everything and actually, speaking.
So reason number 1 is what we call the mental editing delay. It's that little pause you take before you answer a question or jump into a conversation. Now, to other people, it might look like you're hesitating, but it's really the exact opposite.
See, during that silence, while other people might just rush to fill the space, your brain is running this high-speed audit of your thoughts. It's filtering, it's refining, it's making sure that what you're about to say actually adds value. You're not buffering, you're curating. And that idea of curating, it brings us right to our second reason. You think in layers, not simple, straight lines. Your mind is naturally drawn to complexity and depth, which can make a straightforward, linear conversation feel incredibly challenging. I mean, this just illustrates the difference perfectly. Someone asks a simple question like, "How is work?" Most people will just say, "Fine." But your brain, it doesn't just see a question. It sees this entire map of consequences, motives, abstract ideas. You're craving substance, which is exactly why small talk can feel like nails on a chalkboard. Okay, so now we're moving into the consequences of all that rapid-fire processing. These next couple of reasons explore what happens when your mind is pretty much always operating 5 steps ahead of the actual conversation you're in. And that brings us to the cognitive speed mismatch. Yeah, psychological studies have shown that highly intelligent people process information way faster than the average person. Now, this isn't about being better, not at all. It's just a difference in processing speed. But boy, does it create a huge gap in social interactions. I mean, just look at this conversational gap. It's massive. While someone is still on their first point, your brain has already jumped 5 steps ahead, simulating outcomes, identifying flaws, the whole shebang. Now, this can get misread as you being impatient or even arrogant, but really, it's just your brain's predictive processor running at a higher RPM. So what happens next? Well, because you see the world in layers and you think several steps ahead, you're constantly running these internal simulations of social interactions. It's a kind of strategic overthinking, and we call it analysis paralysis. This analogy just nails it. For you, being in the moment can feel totally impossible, because you're not just playing tag like everyone else. Nope, you're playing mental chess, analyzing every possible outcome 10 moves in advance. This makes sounding normal feel like trying to solve a super complex puzzle while everybody else is just running around.
All right, our final 2 reasons. Now, these are rooted in something a little deeper. We're talking about a powerful drive for authenticity and a profound awareness of your own intellectual limits. And in a world that often prefers a good performance over reality, these traits can be, well, pretty isolating.
So, reason number 5 is your authenticity orientation. You are, for all intents and purposes, a fake behavior detective. You have this uncanny knack for reading people, for seeing behind the social masks. You can walk into a room and just instantly feel the tension or spot inauthenticity from a mile away. And here's the thing. Because you see the truth behind people's behavior, you just can't unsee it. You end up rejecting the whole social performance, that herd mentality that so many others just blindly accept. And that makes you an outsider, because a lot of social groups bond over sameness and performance, while you're just busy trying to be real.
And now for our final and maybe most ironic reason of all, intellectual humility. Here's the paradox.
The smarter you are, the more acutely aware you become of just how much you don't know. Your mind is constantly questioning itself.
Think about it. While people with a shallow understanding often speak with this extreme certainty, your mind sees the nuance, the gaps, all the gray areas. And in a world that tends to reward loud, simple slogans, your habit of delaying judgment and admitting uncertainty can make you sound confused to people who only think in black and white.
Okay, so we've covered the 6 brutal reasons. But hang on, let's pivot for a second. Because what if all these challenges, this feeling of being an outsider, what if they aren't weaknesses at all? What if they're actually the source of your greatest strength?
Seriously, let that one sink in for a minute. All of these traits, the deep thinking, the rapid processing, the non-negotiable need for authenticity, they are not flaws you need to fix. They are the components of a rare and incredibly powerful psychological gift.
So let's reframe this whole thing. Your mind isn't a curse. You're not too much. You just think deeper. This gives you a silent depth, a core of self-awareness that doesn't need constant external approval to feel valid. Your gift isn't about changing yourself to fit the world. It's about finding the balance to thrive in it, as you are. Stop diluting your personality. Your weirdness is the very proof of your depth.
And that really brings us to the most important question. Instead of asking how to sound more normal, start asking yourself how you can better leverage this gift. How can you find the people and the places that don't just tolerate your depth, but actually celebrate it? Start small. Just find one conversation this week where you don't edit yourself down. Share that layered thought and see what happens when you let your real intelligence shine through. That's how you start to own your superpower.